Welcome to the It's Just Us radio show. I am Michelle Siobhan, and I'm back in the air chair sitting in for Charlene. So, a new interview explores women's sentiments about their GYN exam, and the results may surprise you. The survey touches on everything from how women prepare for their appointments to the distractions that may prevent them from having important conversations with their healthcare providers. Here to talk about the survey and to help clarify confusion over the types of tests women should be getting are Melanie Notkin, author of popular book Otherhood, and Dr. Aimee Holland, women's health nurse practitioner and also a member of the National Association of Nurse Practitioners in Women's Health. So welcome to the show, ladies.
Thank you, Michelle.
No problem. So I want to start, we'll just get right into it. Melanie, Can you tell us a little bit more about the survey and its findings?
Yeah, absolutely. So I surveyed women to find out what they're doing in preparation for their upcoming gynecological exam. And what we found out is that 85% of those women wake up in the morning ready to get ready. Well, not necessarily in the ways that they should be getting ready. They're focused on getting ready for the exam by maybe taking a longer bath or shower. 7 to 10 of us spend maybe about 7 minutes longer in the bath or shower. Maybe we're spending more time cleaning up down there. 7 to 10 of us are maybe shaving, something like that. And we also then spend a little time picking out our underwear, our pretty lingerie, or our more practical granny panties. Well, 8 out of 10 go the practical way, which, by the way, I find a little ironic, Michelle, because when we get into that exam room and we get undressed to put on our gown for the exam, we hide our underwear anyway. 4 out of 5 of us do. And then 4 out of 5 of us decide to keep our socks on in the stirrups. So, we found that there were a lot of common experiences with women of all ages and what they do when they get to the exam room and before getting ready, etc. In fact, 79% of us walk into the exam room and run away, should I go to the ladies' room first? This is like common stuff. But we also found through the survey was that women were not preparing in the ways that they should. They were not thinking about the conversation that was coming. They were not preparing their questions. They were not doing any research to find out what they should be asking for and certainly what they should be screened for. So while we know that women know that this exam is coming up and they're doing everything they can, maybe even a pedicure, they are not thinking about the questions they should be.
I cannot lie to you, Melanie. I am guilty of that, especially with the longer shower and picking out the prettiest underwear that I have. It's like that's the first thing that comes to your mind, like, oh, someone is going to see my underwear other than me.
But then we hide it anyway under our T-shirt, right? Then we're like, well, I don't want anybody to see it, even though, wait a minute. Right. I know, we're confusing
that
gender.
Is true.
It's true, yeah.
Now, Aimee, were there any results that gave you cause for concern? Like, as a nurse practitioner, did that raise an eyebrow for you?
Yeah, I found it very interesting that women prepare for the exam, but they're not preparing in the way that I thought they were. As a provider of women's health, I would think that women would write down their questions and find out about their family history, identify which screens are necessary, and ask questions about that. But no, they're preparing outwardly. As a healthcare provider, we appreciate that, but I promise you, we don't remember things like whether or not you shaved or whether or not you wore granny panties. And we sure don't look around the room to see where you put them, I promise. Another thing is, women do have good intentions to ask questions, but from the survey we identified that only about 40% ask questions about things such as cervical cancer screening and their sex life. So that's why we're here today. And I'm so thankful that Hologic has made it possible for Melanie and I to be here in order to help empower women to know what questions to ask at the annual GYN exam.
Oh, it's so important because you hear about these cases about cervical cancer.
Yes.
And then it's something that could have been prevented.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely, Michelle.
That the dialogue wasn't there.
Yep. and that they made the appointment and went and were ready to ask the questions and were prepared for the screenings and followed through. And if there's follow-up, that they follow through with the follow-up. Yeah, I mean, it's really, here's the thing, it's quite simple. If you do this, and Aimee is describing all the ways and all the important times in which to make sure that you are screened, have that cervical cancer screening. If you do that, you may have just saved your own life. And if you tell your friend to do it, your best friend, your mom, your aunt, your niece, your college roommate, call her up. This is the way to save a life. I mean, we found out that HPV was a clear sign of, potential precancer cells, or that there could be cancer.
That's
Not
right.
to say that HPV causes cancer all the time. I don't want to raise that fear. But we know that. We know it can be preventable if we go to see our healthcare professional. It's really that easy. Just work on saving your own life and less about what panties you're wearing. Although I get why that's important too.
Yes, so Michelle.
Right.
So Michelle,
Now, Melanie, from what you guys are saying and from what the survey says, I can kind of relate to some of these, but do you personally relate to any of the findings from the survey?
Well, I did, in that I knew in my 20s and even my 30s, I wasn't asking the right questions. I didn't even, when I was in my 20s, I'm in my 40s now, we weren't even talking about HPV. And I wouldn't have known, for now, it's all confusing in terms of, because it keeps changing of what screenings to get when. I know, Aimee, you know.
No woman in America should die from cervical cancer because it can be prevented. Women need an annual exam. At that appointment, if she's 21 to 29 years old, she needs a Pap test every 3 years. If she's 30 to 65, she needs a Pap test plus HPV together every 5 years. So important that you keep the annual exam and that you ask your provider, what screenings do I need today specifically to prevent cervical cancer?
Then that is just what I was about to ask, Aimee. Can you kind of help us clear up the confusion as to what cervical cancer tests do women need and why do they need them?
Yes. HealthyWomen.org. HealthyWomen.org is a great resource. It's evidence-based. It reviews when women need what screenings and why and how and who. It answers all the questions.
Yeah, and again, it's up to you to do the research, so you prepare. So you may have you may find a lot of the answers you didn't even know, questions you needed to ask at healthywomen.org. But go to your healthcare provider with the questions that pertain most to you. Maybe you don't know how you can contract HPV, and you don't know about STIs. And I mean, these are the questions that you should be prepared to ask and be prepared to answer. Because if your healthcare provider is going to ask you questions, be honest with her. Tell your true story, because she or he is making sure that your health is well taken care of. But they can't help you if you don't ask the right questions and open up when you have those conversations.
Now, I understand that you did mention that your family history is an important part of it too. So do you ladies have any additional tips that, could help women better engage with their healthcare provider?
Yeah, it's important if you know your family history, then to share that with your healthcare provider. If you don't, and you have access to someone like your mother, sister, aunt, grandmother who can share that with you, find out, have that conversation. It'll impact you. If you don't know, don't worry. Keep the annual exam and be prepared to ask questions that concern you. Your healthcare provider will help you. Great question.
The most important thing is to remember that this can save your life. Go to the gynecologist. Follow Aimee's direction. Go to healthywomen.org. And remember, it's up to you. Your health, your life is in your hands.
So schedule that annual exam.
Well, I thank you, ladies, for all of this information. Now, hopefully the information you have provided will create more dialogue between patient and healthcare provider and, just women in general. Maybe we can start talking to each other. I know my mother, when my sister and I were younger, she started us off going to the gynecologist early, like when we were around, I think, 15, because she was like, my mother never taught me about this. I had to learn this on my own.
Right.
So, and I don't think I've ever really had any conversations with my friends about, my visit to the gynecologist other than I hate going there. So, but it is important to go, whether you like to sit in the stirrups or not. You do have to do it.
And there's nothing to be, frightened about. Like go and get the answers. I think what would scare me is not knowing the answers. Is not knowing. There's a test I can take that's not any more invasive than your regular gynecological exam. Go get those cancer screenings because it can save your life. I mean, really, talk to your girlfriends. Have them talk to their friends. Maybe, make it sure that every January or February or March, whenever you want, you all make sure you each make that appointment and get your annual checkup and or those screenings apropos your age range.
Well, if you ladies don't mind, could you let the audience know how they could maybe reach you for additional help or?
Yeah, absolutely. Go to healthywomen.org. That's the best way to find out more information. It's all there. And and talk to your healthcare provider because he or she is prepared to answer your questions. And sometimes they just need to know what answers you need.
Thanks, Michelle. We appreciate your time.
Oh, no problem. Thank you. And thank you guys for tuning in to the It's Just Us show. Have a wonderful day.
You too.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, Michelle.